Hello and welcome to Ode to Games. I'm Kevin Van Leen, joined alongside Logan Plant. How you doing, Logan?
I am doing fantastic, Kev. What a week. What a crazy week.
What a crazy day,
I know.
basically.
Yeah.
It all kind of came out of nowhere. I've been trying to catch up before this show, and luckily, our timing works out for once in that we can kind of catch all the big stuff
Yeah.
right as it happens and can sit here and talk about all of it. What,
Yeah, we're
what,
always
what do
like,
we
"Oh,
have?
well, something's happened later today and we'll talk about it next week." Yeah, we did it.
Finally, things break our way. Yeah, we have the Nintendo Direct, we have a state of play, and Yakuza, Gotoku Studios had their presentation to show off a couple of new games. So a lot to get to, as well as Splatoon impressions. Logan, you've been playing it a lot, so definitely going to be talking about that in a little bit. But first, we'll start off with the biggest one, the Nintendo Direct. And we finally have a title and a release date for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, May 12th, 2023. Logan, what did you see in this little snippet? Not a ton,
Oh,
but you got to see a couple of things.
dude, we have a date. We have a date. Usually when Zelda gets delayed, it doesn't ever have a date. So I'm pretty confident this is actually when it's going to come out. I don't think it's going to get pushed past this. If they still just said spring at the end of this trailer, I'd be like, I don't know about that. But the fact that we have a concrete date that is 8 months out, still pretty far away,
Yeah.
but I feel pretty good that we're gonna hit it. But man, I thought this little snippet looked so cool. I love that the after all the kind of hieroglyphic stuff, we don't really know what that means. All the drawings on the wall, unclear of what all that means. There's a ton of theories out there, but I love that this trailer opened proper with Link pushing open these two giant doors and running out into the sky overworld because it's kind of a parallel of when you leave the Shrine of Resurrection in Breath of the Wild and see the world for the first time. Except this time you see just this crazy sky world, right? We see him using some evolution of the stasis rune to ride this rock
Yep.
from the ground all the way up, which was pretty crazy. And then he leaps down, he dives, and then he lands on like this weird ancient guardian techno like manta ray thing, and he's gliding around on that. Man, like the traversal between these two realms is so much cooler than Skyward Sword, where you just dive into this hole and then it like loads for 10 seconds and then you land on the ground. It's like you're actually traveling between the two realms, and I think that is very, very cool. I think it looks great visually. I think it looks like a step up from Breath of the Wild. Since it's just a native Switch game. Switch games in general are looking very good lately, right? We're going to talk about Fire Emblem. That looked better than Three Houses.
Way better.
Splatoon 3 looks better than Splatoon 2. This looks better than Breath of the Wild. Like, we've hit that point in the Switch's life cycle where they've, like, unlocked that secret juice where it just, everything looks better than it did in kind of the few years after launch. So, but man, I really like the title too. I really like the pun in the title since you're exploring the different tiers of the kingdom with the land and the sky and probably the underground based on what we saw in the first
You would
trailer.
assume,
But
yeah.
man, I'm excited. And I don't need to see anything else. I don't want to see anything else. I'm done. I would just want to jump in with what we know. I know that won't end up being true. I know I'll see a couple more trailers for this thing. But if if all I had was this date and this trailer, and then I got the game in 8 months, I'd be satisfied with that. But what do you think of it, Kev?
Yeah, I think it looked really good. Again, there wasn't a ton that they showed off here, but yeah, the traversal
Hmm.
looks a lot better than the little bit that I played in Skyward Sword. Yeah, that mechanical thing that you're riding along looks super cool, and I think that is really important since the land in the sky and on the ground, both of those are so important that making traversal between them easy is really important. And so then you also have
Hmm.
the magnesis power that has been turned more into being able to lift yourself up to that other area. I'm excited to see what more they're going to do in terms of traversal and possibly with the underground too, because we didn't really see a whole lot of that. Looks good, and I'm glad that it finally has a date. It's been a
Yeah.
long time, and having an actual like concrete date gives it at least a little bit more of a concrete feeling that it's going to be coming out. But
I can wait 8 months. January was 8 months ago. That's when what like Pokemon came out and stuff. I can wait that long. I can wait 8 months for this game.
I've still got so many other
Yeah,
things to play.
I know. I do too.
I,
So I'm not really in a
in no
rush, but
rush. Yeah.
I'll be very excited when it gets here. And Yeah, there's a lot of fan theories story-wise about what's going on. There's like in this trailer, there's like minor references to like Twilight Princess. There are references to Skyward Sword. He seems to be holding this like tear vessel on like like attached to his belt, which was a thing that you had in each of those games to collect these sacred tears, and that word is also in the title. There's those like seven like Magatamas kind of surrounding this Majora's Mask looking beast in the on the wall on the cave great graphic at the start of the trailer. People are thinking maybe that's like the seven things you collect at potentially real dungeons in this game. Like, man, there's people are already talking about it so much. The logo is an Ouroboros, which is a very important word in a different AAA Nintendo title right now. But that's what the logo is right now, which can represent like infinity. And I don't know. I kind of think that this game's going to be about like breaking the cycle of Ganon, Zelda, and Link being reincarnated forever and always somehow having to face each other. I think that's what it's going to be about, which kind of feels like the last Zelda game. Obviously, it won't be, but it
Yeah.
feels like this is like kind of ending what they've done for a very long time, and maybe Zelda after this will go in a very different direction story wise. That's kind of what it feels like to me. Like just the way they're setting this all up, it feels very, very big. Like I guess usually story's not a major focus in Zelda, but just how much they're teasing the story of this game and every trailer we've had so far, I'm like, man, there's this. It just kind of feels like the end of an era for the franchise, and like it's going to be much bigger than Breath of the Wild was story wise, because the story in that game was not much, but I feel like it's going to be a little bit more in this one. But I can't wait. It's like, man, I love the title. I really like the title. I think Kingdom is just a really cool word to have in a Zelda title.
Yeah, and I could see them going in another direction once this one's out. I mean, you're going to be working with whatever new console comes next,
Mm-hmm.
and they probably want to try something new after that. Maybe they'll keep kind of the open world design there. Maybe they go back, but either way, I think that might not be the worst idea to at least halfway move on from Breath of the Wild
Yeah,
and make a new experience. But
yeah,
looks
it looks
good.
sick.
Another game that looks good, significantly better than its previous game on Switch, Fire Emblem Engage. We've been hearing a lot of rumors about a Fire Emblem game that's apparently done and ready to go. And here it is, January 20th, 2023. And yeah, I did not play Three Houses, but from what I saw, that game could look a little rough at times. And this one looks
Mm-hmm.
crisp and clean, just graphically.
Yeah, I really, really liked how it looked visually. I thought that the characters kind of really popped off the screen, like in Three Houses. They went for sort of that cell shaded look, but I thought that they looked a little muted, and the whole game looked just a little bit washed. I guess it was going for a lot visually. Like the monastery, like the school that you hang out in, was like really trying to punch above its weight on Switch, but it didn't totally work all the time. But this game looked really, really good, at least in the footage we saw.
So what did you see gameplay wise as a Fire Emblem veteran?
Yeah, so they have this new system where you there's these rings that you equip, and then you summon like a classic Fire Emblem hero to kind of come and be paired up with you and fight by your side. And the pairing up mechanic was first introduced in Awakening, and it's kind of the main way that you fight, and it's changed a lot throughout the different entries. But now it seems like instead of pairing up with different party members on the battlefield, you can like summon these guys whenever you need to. Like Marth was in there, Lynn was in there. I think I saw a couple people from the 3DS games in there, like Celica from the Echoes remake on 3DS was in there, and a bunch of other people. And it seems like you can equip these rings on whichever new party member you want. So it's not like, oh, the main character is always with Marth. It's like you can kind of rotate between. I'm curious to see, are these people actually going to be like characters with dialogue, or is it just going to be like these like
Just a summon.
holograms that come in and fight with
Yeah.
you? Can't really tell that so far, but I think it's a cool concept. It's weird because it doesn't feel very new because they've kind of done this 3 times already. Very
Mhm.
in very different games. They did it in the mobile game, has an all-star cast, so that's different, but still kind of the same. Tokyo Mirage Sessions has the mechanic where you summon classic Fire Emblem characters to fight with you in battle, but very different game than a traditional tactics Fire Emblem. And then the first Fire Emblem Warriors just has an all-star cast, so it's like we've never seen this in a mainline Fire Emblem, but we've seen them do kind of this all-star casting 3 times in like the last 6 years. So that's a little interesting to me. Is like it doesn't feel like the super newest idea, but it is going to play out differently and still have a brand new cast of characters, and I'm sure it will be very good. But that's the only thing I kind of felt. I'm like, we've done this before. I've seen this movie before with with the all star character. Like Marth has been in
Yeah.
like all of these games. I just
He's
mentioned, and
recognizable.
now
I
here's
knew him.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
it looks cool. I think it looks very good though.
looks pretty. I have really not played any Fire Emblem games, so I don't know if it looks good or not from a gameplay sense, but it looked nice. So
My main issue is it's really hard to tell just if tactics gameplay is good just from the quick little snippets we saw.
there was
My
not a
main
whole
issue
lot.
with Three Houses was it was very easy. The actual all of the focus was on the socializing and the relationship developing, and then when you actually got on the battlefield to do a strategy RPG tactics battle, it was a walk in the park. Especially if you spent time developing your relationships like the game wanted you to, your characters just kind of became OP and the game was too easy. So I really loved the challenge of the 3DS games, and I hope that this gets back to it a little bit. And if it doesn't, I'll probably just play this one on hard because I didn't know that about Three Houses going in.
Mm.
But now I know that that game was really easy, so I think I'll kind of try and read the room on the game when this is coming out, and maybe boost it up a little bit for myself.
As long as they have the difficulty options, it shouldn't be
Yep,
too big a deal.
Lunatic is the top one, which I will never try.
That does not sound fun.
Way
That
too
sounds
hard. No,
that sounds like a Zach thing to do.
yeah, yes,
Just do it
Yeah.
on crushing. Just name any difficulty crushing, and he'll go for it.
yep.
Or grounded. He'll do it. And next up, one that people have been waiting for years, and we saw next to nothing about it. Pikmin 4. Sometime next
Whoa.
year, we got a logo. We got a little image. It looked like a yard, and that's kind of about it. But it exists, which we people have been questioning for a long time since Miyamoto. If it was a translation error, we don't know exactly, but there were reports that he said that it was done in 2015. Here it is. Here's Pikmin 4.
Yeah, so there were multiple journalists and one insider who all said that Pikmin 4 was totally scrapped and restarted quietly in 2019. And that would line up with this. I mean, a 4-year development cycle for this thing, that would line up because they were saying that like 2 years ago. They said like in 2020, hey, this game was just restarted last year. And now here it is. And regardless if that's true or not, I'm thrilled that Pikmin 4 is real. I love Pikmin 3. That game is really, really amazing. And it's a gorgeous game. I love the kind of realistic art style they go for, but like I thought that the little clip we saw of this backyard was just gorgeous. And I think it'd be very cool if Pikmin 4 took place like in a neighborhood. Like it kind of seems like it might, because that would just be very different because like the Pikmin, all the other games kind of take place in the wilderness. Like you go through this lake, you go through this snowy area, you go through this grassy area. But it'd be cool if it's like, oh, you're just in this person's backyard, and then you're in this person's backyard, and it's like, what if instead of it like a desert area, it's like you're in like a children's sandbox or something like that? Like I think it'd be super cool if they just play around with that because I think it'd make it feel really different. Because from my understanding of the three Pikmins, like geography wise, they can all kind of feel the same. So I think this is like a really cool shakeup to do for the game. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'll definitely be picking this one up. And Pikmin 3 is phenomenal, and it's pretty cheap on Switch. It's usually like $30, so I would recommend trying it out because that game's really, really good.
Yeah, I wonder what they could do with a more realistic setting. I don't. The characters aren't that small, so I don't. Unless this kid's play box is huge, I don't know if they can do like a whole world in there. But I mean, maybe play off the concept, not even just like yards, but kind of just like like a town area with like green belts and things, and that could be interesting. And
how
change
big
things
is
up.
Olimar?
I mean, in that picture, it kind of looked like a couple of them stacked up could reach up to that like bench.
I think it was Brittany in the little clip we saw, who was one of the 3 protagonists in Pikmin 3. That's who it looked like to me from like the very brief shot that we saw. Olimar is 0.75 inches tall. He is tiny. He's like this tall.
Yeah, I guess he is pretty small.
Yeah, so like a whole backyard could be like an entire region of the world. That's how tiny these guys are.
Yeah. Yeah, with that size, maybe they could make more worlds out of it. Yeah. Didn't see much,
You've
but
never played Pikmin, right?
I have not played Pikmin. No. Bought them
They're
on
really fun
GameCube.
games.
Bought the first one on GameCube, Japanese version, and I've
Oh.
thought about Pikmin 3. Different points, but maybe before Pikmin 4 comes out, if the next trailer comes out, it's like, oh my god, this looks incredible. Maybe I'll hop into Pikmin 3 beforehand.
Pikmin 3 is, though, I think it's the one to play before. Pikmin 1 is extremely difficult in its timer system. You have like 25 days, I think, to finish the whole game, and if you get down to like day 23 or day 24 and just don't have enough time to finish, like your file's just done and you're gonna lose. Like you can't fix it. You're done. You have to start over. And then Pikmin 2 is kind of like I think the one people don't really like of the three. It has a lot of like dark cave exploration. It seems like the caves all can look kind of the same and they're very hard in there. It's very easy to die in these caves. I've never played 1 or 2. That's just what I've heard from people. But then 3 is very chill. It's very easy to beat. But then the challenge is like, what score are you going to get? Kind of like Luigi's Mansion. Like depending on how well you do, you get this score at the end. Very beautiful game, very chill game. Fun to swap between 3 protagonists. Like, yeah, it's a great game. Kind of an underrated game. I feel like people don't really talk about it, but it's a top tier game on Switch.
I think Pikmin generally flies under the radar for the most part.
Yeah. Pikmin 3 is the best. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is the best selling one. It's the Switch effect.
Because it's on Switch, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of, I guess, so there were ports on Wii, but between GameCube and Wii U, those aren't the best systems to be launching games on.
Yeah.
Another big announcement: Octopath Traveler 2, February 24th, 2023. Logan, you were a big Octopath Traveler fan, right? Of the first 20 hours?
I was a huge fan.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan for the first 20 hours. So this is one that I will have my eye on, because if it fixes the problems with the first one, I think this game could be absolutely amazing, right? Like,
yeah.
They even said in the trailer, intertwining stories. They said that, which is not the case in the first game.
Did they say intertwining stories for the first one and then it just wasn't? How did they describe it in the first one?
That's what we have to kind of go back and look at.
Did they just like describe it as like connected, where you just like, oh yeah, we'll just like connect these two together somehow. Intertwining would make it seem like they come together and they kind of continue together and they need to be together for it to all make sense. But
so yeah, I think that it depends. This is one I will absolutely wait for reviews on, but the 2 big issues I had with the first one were the grind, because it was like a 10 level jump to get to the chapter 2 of each character, and you could only level up 4 at a time. That was terrible. And then, do these characters actually speak to each other? Because literally you'd be in a cutscene for one person's story, you'd have 3 characters behind them, and they just stand there. They just literally don't interact. And it's weird. And this, I feel like everybody has the same critiques of this game. So I would hope the sequel fixes it. And if it does, geez, this looked good. I loved like the kind of like in how industrial it was. Like there's like a train and a steamboat. It just looks gorgeous. Gosh, it looks so cool. Like I just love the HD 2D art style. This one came out of the blue for me. They're cranking these games out, and it looked really, really good.
Yeah, if any game is going to go for old school RPG style, I want it to be an HD 2D, because these games look fantastic. Super good. And yeah, it looks like there's a lot of varied areas, and it feels like a very globe-trotting adventure, which I think looks really cool. They showed the map kind of where they all come from, and it looks like exploration could be very cool, of traveling to all these different locations and gathering the team together. But yeah, if they don't all like interact with each other, the whole idea of having these 8 people traveling together feels kind of moot at that point.
Yeah, it's like that's the gimmick of the game, and they don't do anything with it.
You don't build the identity of the game around that and then have them not interact in any conceivable way. You would hope that they saw that feedback from the first game and put that into this one. But at the very least, graphically and style wise and the world, it looks fantastic. And the combat looks like it was in the first one, which seems like really solid combat. So
the combat was really cool.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Kirby, his anniversary is still going, and we're getting a remake. Return to Dreamland Deluxe, February 24th, 2023.
This is the same day. I didn't realize that.
Oh, did
Octopath Traveler
oh
and Kirby are the same day.
oh shoot. Either I screwed up on that, or they're coming out on the same day.
I know they're both in February. I know they're both
Then
coming out in February, so
maybe
that's
they're
probably right.
coming out the same day. Is there a big overlap between Kirby fans and Octopath Traveler fans?
Probably not me, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm not playing this game. Yeah, I'm not playing Kirby. But this is my favorite Kirby game. Even after Forgotten Land, I think I still like this game a little bit
Really?
more. Yeah, I think so. Um, Forgotten Land, we haven't talked about it much lately. I haven't soured on that game, but it's not as good as I wanted it to be. I think we did talk about it a little bit at the time. I think that game just showed its hand in the first two worlds and then didn't introduce anything new until the final boss. And I really liked it. I had a good time going through it, but I think that this game, with its Return to Dreamland, with its multiplayer and its very well hidden collectibles, and a very good post game, like, I think that there's just a little bit more in that game that I enjoy.
Hmm.
I mean, Forgotten Land's my second favorite Kirby game. Like, it beats all the other ones. This is just the one that I've always liked the most. And we played this one together like 3 years ago.
We did. It was a good time. I think for me, I think a 2D game has to be absolutely exceptional to beat a solid 3D platformer, just because I find 3D
Hmm.
platformers so much more engaging than a 2D one. But oh yeah, Kirby Return to Dreamland was really solid. I had a really good time with that. And there's new copy ability in this, and that's why they're charging $60.
And it's an HD, I
It
guess. Like,
is.
it's more
I
than a Wii
mean,
U port. It's not like Tropical Freeze where they literally did nothing to it, and then here it is. Like, they did have to rework it completely into HD. It's got a weird kind of like cell shaded look, almost like there's these really thick black outlines around the characters, and it looks like Smash 3DS. I don't know if you remember, but the characters had really thick
yeah, they
black
did.
outlines around them, and that's what it looks like in this. That's what I immediately thought of. It's an interesting style. I think it looks cool. We've talked about this, Kev. This is a one of those late Wii games, right? This came out in 2011, the very end of the Wii's life, and games at the end of the Wii's life did not sell very well. So
Nope.
this game was on Wii U Virtual Console, but then no one had a Wii U, so it didn't make sense to me at first. I'm like, why this game? But now it kind of does. I'm like, this is like one of the best Kirby games that really nobody played, even though it was on the Wii with its huge 110 million install. This is one that did not sell very many copies and probably deserves a second chance. After how successful Forgotten Land was, this will probably sell pretty well, and it is a great game. Is it worth $60? Not to me. If you haven't played it and maybe have people like kids or friends you want to play it with, yeah, it's probably worth it. This is a really, really good Kirby game.
I hope that the sales don't falter too much because of the because of the price tag. I look at the Mario All Stars collection. There's an HD version of a Wii game along with two other games for $60, and then you have
Hmm.
this for 60. So you know, and this is also coming from someone who owns it on Wii and played it on Wii. But
Yeah.
for all those people, like you said, that didn't play it on Wii and didn't play it on Wii U, it's kind of like a new game.
Hmm.
A new game for $60. Nintendo knows that people are going to go for it. So
They're out of Wii U ports, so they're like, roll in the Wii ports.
they're not out of Wii U ports. Xenoblade Chronicles X.
No, they're not. Which I now have more investment in them bringing out of nowhere, I guess.
Just to have them all together so that one doesn't just
Uh-huh.
die
Yep.
on the Wii U.
I know, it's like I put my you put like all the Splatoon games together, and it's like, oh, there's one on Wii U, and it's like now Xenoblade's like that too. There's just one sitting there on Wii U, and everything else is on Switch.
And it's just going to be stuck over there, seemingly.
So that's kind of the end of the big like new first party games, and it just had, holy cow, like the Switch's library is just going to be unparalleled, and this just set up 2023 in such a nice way for first party games. Like brand new Fire Emblem, new Pikmin, man, like new Zelda. It's going to have two mainline Zeldas, two mainline Fire Emblems, a port of Pikmin, and a new Pikmin. Like, it just keeps going. It's just like they have so many franchises they're pulling from right now, and they're all generally pretty good. There's been a few clunkers in the Switch's library for sure,
Of course.
but
You
for the
can't, they can't
most
all be
part,
winners.
yeah. But for the most part, like the new big entries of things have been really, really good. And I
Yeah.
think these all look great.
Yeah, well, I know that we're still pretty early on in the new console generation, and we'll get to Sony State of Play. But you go from the Direct where they're just dropping things left and right,
Uh-huh.
whether it's big stuff from Nintendo or even some big stuff from third parties. They have so much to throw at you. And then I feel like on PS5 they've got a couple of big things that they have, and then that's kind of it.
And this is
It-
something I was talking to a friend about is that Nintendo it took Nintendo a long time to learn how to make HD games, and fortunately that was happening during the Wii U era when no one really cared about their output, and by the time the Switch came out, they had it pretty down. Like they release games pretty quick. Like they have a lot of games that come out, and now they're in the full swing of producing things at the level they are. And now I feel like Xbox and PlayStation are struggling to make 4K games, and it's
yeah.
taking so much longer to make high quality 4K games that live up to the visuals that people expect from these machines. And meanwhile, the Switch is just like, here's 10 first party games a year, plus like a million games from Square Enix and a ton of indies. And it's like, geez, the Switch is riding high. And I think it's going to last for a couple more years, at least through next year. Like, this lineup is really, really good for next year, the first half of next year at the very least. Like, man, it's awesome.
Yeah, it doesn't show any signs of stopping. The console keeps selling too, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel like Nintendo's in a super big rush to get the next console out the door like they have in the past.
Are you craving a visual upgrade on your Switch? When you play your Switch, are you like, I wish these games looked or ran better?
I mean, there are definitely times, especially when you go. So, for example, playing Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, I was playing that
Yes.
and finished that, and then I hopped
Mm-hmm.
over to Xenoblade, and there are definitely some times where I'm like, "Ooh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't look super great." But then I don't know, you get used to it. Like I'm only a couple of hours in. We'll talk about that later, and I've already kind of gotten used to it. There are always going to be those times, especially if you're playing in handheld, where you're like, "Yeah, I could go for a little bit more power here," but it isn't at the point
Mm-hmm.
yet where it's deal breaking for me, where it's like I can't play it. Like thinking back to the Wii and how that was underpowered in terms of its resolution, there came a
Yeah.
point where things just looked ugly. Like it did not look good for the most part, and I would rather play something on 360 at the time. I haven't gotten to that point yet with the Switch where
Mm-hmm.
eh, they look atrocious. Some of the games, yeah, not
Yeah.
great, but I haven't reached that point yet.
Me neither. I know a lot of people that kind of have, and I'm like, really? Like, I guess I'm more forgiving on a Switch game that doesn't look as good as a PlayStation game that runs like garbage because I can play the Switch in handheld mode and I can't play my PlayStation in handheld mode. Maybe that's not fair, but it feels fair to me. But like, yeah, there's times like Kirby has the enemies in the distance that run at like 3
Oh
FPS.
yeah. Yeah,
and
it's just a slideshow.
And there's a little bit of that in Splatoon, but beyond that, Splatoon's like one of the best looking Switch games. Like that thing is visually gorgeous. It looks absolutely amazing. And it's like I said, I feel like we have leveled up a little bit in how these Switch games look. And I felt that about all three big first party games, Fire Emblem, Pikmin, and Zelda. I'm like, these look really cool. Granted, we didn't see that much of Pikmin, but what we did saw I thought looked amazing. And I don't need 60 as long as it can run at 30. I'm good. I can do 30 FPS still. I'm not like I need 60 or else. I thought the PS5 might convert me to that. When I'm given a choice on PS5 between 30 and 60, I always pick 60. But when I'm playing a game on Switch and it's like this runs at 30, I'm like, that's okay with me.
If they're
Even
gonna give
Xenoblade
me
drops
60
sometimes.
FPS somehow, I'll take it. Like if you
Splatoon
give
runs
me
at
the
60.
option. If you
Yeah,
give
it
me the
runs a
option for
solid
all
60.
games, 30 or 60, I would take the 60, but
Yeah.
it's not deal breaking. I could see if the Switch is your only console and you want to play some of these third parties, there were some that were in this presentation that looked not good, looked
Mm-hmm.
really bad. So if you're playing
Mm-hmm.
those games, if the Switch is kind of your one-stop shop for gaming, you don't have a PlayStation or an Xbox, I can see why you'd be more interested in getting an upgrade sooner. But if
Yeah.
you're playing a lot of the first party stuff or stuff that's more closely tied to Nintendo, I don't feel like it's as big of a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's nice to have multiple consoles so I can play Resident Evil if I want, not on the cloud.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think for multi-console owners, I am happy with what the Switch is doing. But I'd understand that if like your only choice to play like It Takes Two is on Switch, that
Yeah.
did not look good. That
No,
Sifu I thought looked terrible
really bad.
on
Yeah.
Switch. in this direct.
Those are probably the two that jumped out at me the most. And then, of course, the cloud
Yeah.
versions again, which is just...
Yeah.
I get why they do
give
it.
you the demo. At least they give you the demo,
Right.
so you can, for all of these, you can actually see if it works for you.
Yeah, it just feels so opposite of the Switch's vision of play anywhere.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, play anywhere that you have incredible internet connection. But yeah, if that's your only option, there you go. Yeah. Let's run through some of the other smaller stuff, some cool stuff, at least for me, because there's a lot of farming stuff. First off, Xenoblade 3, they showed off some of the stuff that you can get in the season pass. They showed off a new blade and some challenges that you can do. Nothing on the story that's going to be coming later, but new blade. Logan, have you decided if you're waiting still for the for a possible hard copy?
I am waiting. Especially, I'm not even playing that much Xenoblade right now. I want to be, but I'm just playing Splatoon, and I don't have time for both. They're both games I want to pour 100 hours into, and right now Splatoon's the new thing, so I've been playing that, but I will get back. There's really not anything coming out until November that I'm going to pick up. Bear and Breakfast I'm going to pass on. I know that's out tomorrow, but I'm going to wait on that one. But so yeah, if the next 2 months for me is hopefully just going to be, I want to wrap up Arceus still, and then
Live Alive, or are you done with that?
Yeah, I guess I'm like an hour from the end of that. I was kind of already counting that as done.
No, you're not. You got to finish.
I know. And then I want to wrap up Arceus, and then I'm hoping that my multiplayer can just be Splatoon and my single player can just be Xenoblade until Sonic Frontiers comes out in 2 months.
Sounds like a plan. Yeah, for me.
But yeah, I really want a physical for Xenoblade DLC.
Would be cool. Yeah, and Torn is so hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Japan, it's hard to find. Like I saw one copy the other day at a store, and it's like $50 still. Which, yeah, I hope at the very least that if they're going to do a physical copy of this story DLC, that they announce it sometime soon, so that people like us will know ahead of time.
Yeah.
Give us an idea of that. Just tell us if you're going to do it or not. I would appreciate I would appreciate the information on that. Let's get into the farming games. My favorite. First off, Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, summer 2023. This is a big one for me. I played the hell out of the original back on GameCube. I am not as super fond of it as everyone else is. I think that game's farming aspects are a little bit weaker than in other games, and it really doesn't give you the level of customization in terms of your farm that I think other games do. Like, it gives you the farm and you have these plots of land and then that's all set in stone. Like, that does not really change. But I think what is cool is that you have time actually passing. You in that first year you get married and then you have a kid, and then the kid actually ages up and goes through all those stages. And I never got to the point where I saw it to the end and saw myself reach old age. So I'm excited to hop back in again and actually give it a shot to kind of play towards the end, because that's something that really hasn't happened since then. Having a game that actually has time progress up until old age and then you die, and you have this in these life simulation games, I guess, besides The Sims. But in terms of like a farming simulator, it really hasn't been done since. So I'm excited to hop back in. And they have merged. It's so weird to think about. When that game first came out, they had to make a separate game for the female.
Called what? Another Wonderful Life?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Or if you go to the DS Cute, like, oh, really, really gross.
More Friends of Mineral Town.
Yeah, weird. But yeah, they have merged all that together. And from what it sounds like, same-sex marriage is included as well, which is super cool. So yeah, I'm excited to hop back into this game. I have not played A Wonderful Life in years, so I am excited to hop back into that. Fae Farm looks like
A Wonderful Life
got?
Is my most played farming game of all time.
Oh, really?
I played that game for like,
you did?
God, I don't even know how much. A ton on the GameCube. Yeah, we had that game when I was growing up. And all four of us, my parents, my sister, myself, we all had our own individual farms spread across like 3 different GameCube memory cards. And we'd label them. It'd be like, oh, Logan's farm's on this one. Alex's farm is on this one. I really liked that game. I thought that game was really cool. I remember all the characters. I remember the old, like the man in like the tank top who's like super hunched over,
Yeah.
that you talk to all the time, who like lives on your farm. I think he lives on your farm. I
There's a
married
couple other
Molly,
people.
who worked at like the
Molly.
milk bar.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's 3 choices in
I
that
was I
game.
was a Celia
Yeah,
Celia guy. And
she was like
then
the other farmer's daughter or something like that,
yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
then
Uh-huh.
I forget the red hair girl's name.
Oh, yeah.
I want to
I
say started
remember
with like
it.
an R. I want to
Me
say
too. I was
Robin.
thinking like Rosie. We were both thinking this very similar
I
things.
I never picked her because I heard that it was the hardest one to do, so I was like, no.
Yeah, because she
Seems
was
kind
only
of
available
difficult.
during like very specific hours or something like that
Yeah.
that
So
you
I was
could
like,
talk to.
I'll just go with Celia. She's nice.
Yeah. Um, and I had a sheep named Bob, and I was neglecting my sheep, and then he died, and I remember crying because I was like 5 years old when I played
Hey,
this
it was your
game.
fault.
It was my fault. Uh, oh, her name is Nami.
Nami. I don't know why I thought it was
Yeah.
R. Nami. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Why did we both thought that? That's weird. But yeah, I played
I
a lot of
don't
that
know.
game. I think I'm past the point in my life where I'm gonna dump hours into farming games. That's just not one of the genres I want to spend a bunch of my time on. I instead dump hours into things like Splatoon and Monster Hunter. But I thought it was cool to see this game. It was like super nostalgic. I'm like, wow, I haven't thought about this game in a very long time. Uh, yeah, I'm excited to see what you think of it, and I'm sure my sister's going to pick it up and play it too.
I'm surprised you played it. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
I
I'm
played
so
a lot
used
of
to
this
you
game.
me talking about these farming games, and it's just
hmm
me. So
I
nice
was
to know that
wondering,
someone
I
else is
was like, are you
playing
just
it.
going to blast through this one? Because this is the one I could talk about that I played. Yeah, I just remember liking the town a lot. I like heading down to that main street of the town, and I just remember it like this is one of the games I guess I never talk about when we talk about these things. Like when you're a kid and you don't play the game like it's supposed to be played.
Oh
Like I
yeah,
would
I
just
think I
go
was
to
pretty
town,
similar.
hang
Yeah.
out, talk to people. That was this game for me. I didn't farm very much in this game.
Yeah, I
I did
wonder.
have a kid though.
Did you? How far did you get on that? Was it just a baby? Because I don't think I got past that. I don't know if my child aged up beyond like the infant or like the young child. I never got to
When
like
could he
mid
talk? Could
teenage
your kid
years
talk?
having like full on conversations.
Mm-hmm. Because I got to that point.
Maybe.
I got to the point where I remember like the farm would like bend down to like talk to the kid, and he'd like ask like funny questions that kids ask, and you could like pick a response, and you could like give him a toy, and you could like pick him up and like throw him in the air and catch him.
Yeah. Okay. That
Uh,
sounds
yeah,
familiar. Yeah.
yeah. So I did. I remember that, and then that's about when I stopped. So after you have a kid, so at some point.
Yeah, I wonder if it'll be a different experience playing now that I've played all these other farming games and I know how this stuff works and I know how they're meant
Yeah,
to be played. If I'll just like
yeah.
blast through it. Yeah, because as a kid, it's like,
hmm
oh, I'll just do random stuff. I'll go hang out at the mines and get like a gold coin that sells for nothing,
Yeah.
but I'll spend my whole day over there.
Or talk to
Yeah,
like the like elf things that live like on the hill. Like
yeah, and
there's like a
question what
GBA
they
Connect
do.
with Mineral Town. Like you can connect with
There
the
was a
link cable
connection,
to
yeah,
Mineral Town.
because they
I
would they
never
would
did
talk
that.
about it because
Yeah.
well they would mention it. I think the vendor would talk about Mineral Town
hmm
and or something like that. And like as a kid, I was like, oh, what's that? Like it's just another town. I didn't realize that it was a whole nother game.
And there was this hill. There was this hill that you could go to, but the little elf dudes were blocking it and be like, you can only pass this hill if you have a
Oh
GBA Harvest
yeah.
Moon Mineral Town, and I
Never
could
had
never
that.
go up there. And I always wanted to.
Because it's like, oh, there's got to be something so cool up there. And it's probably like
Yeah.
nothing. It's probably like a menu
Probably not. Yeah.
to get some items. Yeah, what a throwback. I am excited to journey back into that again. It's been a long time. And I'm glad that you played it too. We have
Yeah,
some
it's a good
farming
game.
game to talk about.
Uh-huh.
I remember a lot of people playing that game. At least like some closer friends back in the day that didn't really play a whole lot of those games. They would play that too.
Mm-hmm. That was a
I feel
popular
like A
one.
Wonderful Life, along with probably Harvest Moon 64, were kind of the
I
two
played that one
seminal
too.
ones that if someone was going to play any of the Harvest Moon games, those would probably be the two that people
What's the one
know.
on PS2 that's like the counterpart to A Wonderful Life? Gosh.
Counterpart. I mean, there's Save the Homeland. on PS2.
That's it. Yeah, that one. Yeah, yeah, that's what
I remember that game was brutal.
Oh,
Like,
really?
well, yeah, because you had to save the homeland. And if you did, from what I remember, so this is when I was a kid, and my friend was
Uh-huh.
also a kid playing these games. And so we didn't know how it all worked. But you're trying to save the homeland, you're trying to save the town from being bulldozed for like a theme park. And if you don't do certain things to save the town, like, oh, you find this rare flower and the town is like a nature preserve or something like that. If you don't do that, the game just ends from what I remember and you just lose.
Oh
Like
no!
it gets bulldozed.
That's terrible.
So from what I remember, we did not get very far.
You did not save the
We did not
homeland.
save the homeland. Yeah, and then years later, I think we looked it up. It's like, oh, that's how you do it. That's how you save the homeland.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they could get brutal back in the day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, sorry, town's gone. Theme park instead killed everybody. But hey, you can ride this roller coaster. Good times with those. Other farming games. Let's keep this moving. Fae Farm kind of looks more like a Stardew Valley type game. This one has a lot more farm customization in terms of, you know, completely creating that area in front of your farm, and
Mm-hmm.
it's got 4-player co-op. It has magic mechanics and dungeon crawling. Looks like a Stardew Valley type game, which means I'll keep my eye on it. Nothing about it screamed that like I need to play this game, but it has elements where I'm like, yeah, that looks fun. And if it comes out and it's good and got a lot of content, maybe I'll check it out at some point. Rune Factory is back after Rune Factory 5's debacle.
Nice.
Rune Factory 3 special. I'm curious what their plan is moving forward with remakes. So are we just going backwards and we're going to continue going backwards? Are they going to make 2 and then the original? I don't know, but they're picking 3 for some reason. Good for me, because Rune Factory 3 is quite expensive to pick up on the secondhand market at this point. So
Okay.
I am glad that they're going back and doing a remake of this one. And they did a good job with Rune Factory 4 Special. They have shown that they've been able to bring these types of games up to current gen with Switch. So I have faith that this one will be fine. Rune Factory 5, not as much, because they also said that a new Rune Factory series is in development. I don't know how to take that. So
yeah, it's the same way they announced Rune Factory 5. There's like, it exists.
I guess it means that it's not a numbered entry. Like, you know, I think about it before Rune Factory 5 came out.
A reboot?
Maybe. But I guess just what does that mean? Is it just like the same game? Because with Rune Factory 1 through 4, they all had that kind of, you know, like isometric style. Like you're looking down on this farm. And then the console games, because those are all handhelds, you had Rune Factory Frontier and Tides of Destiny on Wii and PS3. And because those were on consoles, they were, you know, the camera was pulled back behind the character, and they felt significantly different than Rune Factory 1 through 4. But then 5 comes out and it's a numbered entry, and it's like Frontier and Tides of Destiny. So I have no idea what a new series means, but I can also understand why they would want to go in a new direction after Rune Factory 5, because that game kind of just came and went, and I don't think people liked it very much. So it makes sense to me that they would go back to Rune Factory 3, make a remake of that, and then whatever they want to do with the new series. You know. And who knows how far that's going to be in development, because it literally was, we're making something, all right, bye. And I kind of question why they needed to do that in the first place, because you give people Rune Factory 3 special and people are going to be happy. I don't know why they felt the need now to say anything on the new Rune Factory game, but they did. So
yeah,
there is that. And then Harvestella is getting a demo. I will download that later and hopefully talk about it next week.
Sweet.
Yeah, looking forward to that. November 7th. Splatoon is getting its first Splatfest. The teams are Gear, Grub, or Fun on a desert island. Logan, do you have a pick yet?
We're going Gear. We're going Team Gear.
Team Gear.
Yeah, I think if you bring food, you'd run out. Bringing fun, that's just stupid. Like who the heck is picking fun? We're bringing Gear. I think
It
this is a
seems,
weird
yeah,
Splatfest.
a really weird one to kick it off. I feel like there's probably other better three-way competitions that you could come
Yeah.
up with over this one, but yeah, okay.
All right. Sure.
Yeah, I kind of
I'm
thought that
excited
too, where it's
for it.
like if we're talking about an actual like deserted island, it's got to be either gear or grub. no one's
hmm
gonna, no one's gonna pick the
Unless
other
you're going
one.
like with other people. Like, are we going with 5 people and I'm the one who's bringing fun? But like, if that's the case, fun should be a very small percentage of the people. But fun, I
But
don't know.
people
I feel
can
like
take
all
it
the
in
kids are gonna
anyway,
pick fun.
yeah, like why am I bringing this other stuff? I want to have fun on this desert island. I want to have my desert
Yeah.
island games.
Yep.
So we got that. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. They teased Wave 3 with 2 new tracks, Merry Mountain from Tour and Peach Gardens from DS. I like
I
Peach
like Beach
Gardens.
Gardens.
It's a
Yeah,
good
it's a good
track.
track.
And
Jinx.
yeah. And Merry Mountain looks good. Looks very Christmassy,
Did
which
you play
since
Diddy
this is
Kong
coming out
Racing?
in winter. No, I did not.
There is a track in Diddy Kong Racing that is at night, and you drive through this snowy, like Christmassy town, and this gives off vibes of that, and it's very cool because that's like an awesome track in Diddy Kong Racing, and this looks just like that to me.
Had no idea. Did not play Diddy
hmm
Kong Racing. But yeah, I think it lines up really well since it's going to be coming out this winter to have a winter themed track from Mario Kart Tour in there. Looks nice.
hmm Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what other tracks are going to be coming out for it. I just want those new tracks. It's so good when they drop, and then I'm just waiting for the next set.
Yeah. Same.
So good. Some new games coming to the expansion pack for N64 on NSO. We've got a bunch of Mario parties. The 2022 games, Pilot Wing 64, Mario Party 1 and 2. And then in 2023, Mario Party 3, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excite Bike 64. GoldenEye is also coming. But if you have Xbox, that is going to be on Game Pass. So you don't have to seemingly get the expansion if you have Game Pass.
These are like different versions of the games. Like the Xbox one is like up-res, retooled controls, kind of a little bit
Oh,
of a
okay.
remake, and then the NSO version is original
Straight.
N64 GoldenEye. Yeah, so I think that's interesting that there are two different versions of this game coming out at the same time.
I guess since Microsoft has Rare, they can they can make the better
Yeah,
version.
I'm happy
And
it's included on N64 at all. I think that's very cool that
yeah,
it's here, and I did not expect Mario Party 1, 2, and 3 after the remake of Superstars, but I'm very excited about that. I think those games are extremely expensive, and I think it's very cool that it's online. They're going to have online play. And yeah, I thought because of the remake, there was no chance we'd be getting Mario Party on. But there's a bunch of boards that aren't in Superstars and a bunch of mini games that aren't in Superstars that I think it's super awesome that these are on the expansion pack.
yeah, I think these are the biggest for me. Even if these aren't enough to push me over, even still, I think Mario Party is a super cool add to the service.
I was surprised to not see a new console though. This was it. This was it for
Yeah,
NSO. I thought we would see a
we've
new
been
console.
we've been talking about Game Boy Advance stuff.
hmm
Still nothing on that. The drip feed continues.
Yep. But this is a really good set. I think the Pokemon Stadiums, I think that is awesome that these are in here too. Those games, like Pokemon Stadium 2 is like over $100. Like it's really
I mean, most
expensive to get a
N64
cartridge of
games at
that.
this point are
Yeah.
getting pricey.
So I think
And
that those and honestly all of these games, I want to play all of these games on Nintendo Switch Online. I think this is like a great wave, probably my favorite wave that they've announced so far.
it's nice to
Bunch
get
of stuff I haven't played before.
another group of games rather than just, oh, hey, this random game's coming out. It's
Yeah.
kind of nice to know
Yeah.
what games are going to be coming out in the near future, kind of have this roadmap of stuff, which is
Yeah.
a nice change. Logan, are you sad that golf in Nintendo Switch Sports is getting delayed to this holiday?
I had a very sad reaction to this where I saw it and I was like, yes, finally golf. I'm going to play this. And then they're like 21 holes from Wii Sports. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know they were just remaking the courses from Wii Sports.
And that's
That
why it needs to
feels
get
so
delayed.
ridiculous. And then they're like, and it's delayed to this holiday. And I'm like, that is just terrible. That was a bummer. I liked Switch Sports. I thought it was a very fun game, but I did want a little bit more content because I only liked half the sports. And I was looking forward to golf. I'll still play it, but all of that, it being like, oh, Wii Sports holes and they're coming later. It's not a great announcement. Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't even
Uh,
include strikers on our rundown, which
oh
is
no, I
funny.
do not care about that. Yeah, so Strikers got an update.
Diddy Kong and Pauline.
It's the same thing. So we
Yep.
have talked about this before. Let's talk about it again for a second and move on to something else. They have two new characters, and in the trailer, they talk about how these characters have very specific, like stats and what their abilities are. But
Yeah.
then you can just attach gear to the character and make them like everybody else. So the stats don't matter. Like there's no
Hmm.
point. And then the stadiums, like we talked about before, it is set dressing and that is it. And it's completely inconsequential set dressing too because with the camera angle you barely see any of it.
Yep.
The content that
Yep.
they add in these updates is incredibly meaningless
Hmm.
to me. And new gear, like
Let's.
okay, new ways to make them have the similar loadouts. I don't know. It's stupid.
I hope Next Level Games gets to make something cool next, like Luigi's Mansion 4 or something fun like that. Because I'm looking forward to when they're no longer being used on this. Yeah.
Well, it's three
There's only one
waves of
more update,
DLC,
and then it is
and then
over.
it's dead. I mean, it's already pretty dead from what I know. I have not played it since
Yeah.
literal launch day.
I haven't
Disappointment of
played
the
it in
year so
probably
far.
2 months. Yeah.
Really gross. Yeah, let's move on from that. A couple of other smaller ones. Master Detectives Archive Rain Code. This is just from the Danganronpa people, and I don't know, these types of detective games always look interesting to me, and you're kind of exploring through these kind of like ghost realms and have to use the evidence and contradictions and stuff to make your way through. I don't know. Looked kind of interesting. And I've heard good things about Danganronpa, so yeah.
Yeah. Frame rate looked pretty rough on the rain and some of the effects on this one. But it's early. We'll see.
Yeah, it's spring 2023, so hopefully they get that ironed out. And yeah, those are the times where you have third-party games and sometimes they don't look the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We talked about it. Resident Evil is coming to Switch. A lot of games, but they're all coming via the cloud. So any interest I would have at all is gone. But I
Yep.
am a multi-console player, so if I was going to play any of these, I would play them on PS5 regardless of if it was the cloud version or if it was running natively. I would just play it
Hmm.
on PS5, but these cloud versions, I I still am very curious what the install base for or just the level of interest people have for cloud versions. How well do these sell? Like how many
Hmm.
people are really interested in cloud versions or have bought a cloud version in the past and didn't feel like they got ripped off and would buy it again?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. They keep coming out though.
They do. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of cloud games on Switch.
It's the only way some of these games can get here. And Tales of Symphonia remastered early 2023. People really like Tales of Symphonia. It's back on a Nintendo console. Me and Zach played a bit of that on the PS3 version. But yeah, cool to see that one coming back.
Oh, I didn't know you played this. Is this the one you beat together?
No, we played. We
Eternal
beat Eternal
Sonata.
Sonata was the one we beat, and then we were looking at other multiplayer JRPGs, and this one came up, but we didn't really get too far into it. So
Well, the original version of this game runs at 60 FPS, and this remastered runs at 30. That's what people were talking about today.
gross. I did not see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Uh-huh.
That's lame. Yeah, and besides some
That's
other
it, and that's
small
it. That we don't
things,
need to talk about anything else. Not the last thing on your list.
we talked about that a little bit before.
We did. Yes, we did.
We
It's
did
true.
mention the last thing I had on my list here a little bit before, and how it looks like garbage.
Mhm.
And yeah, Sifu also did not look good. Sometimes, yeah, you get these games coming from third parties, and they just look real rough to the point where I'm curious that they wanted to show it off at all. Like it comes in
Mhm.
and they show this trailer, I'm like, whoa, ooh,
Mhm.
that does not make me want to play that. And that was the Nintendo Direct. Overall, what did you think of the Direct as a whole?
For me, I loved it. I loved it. For me, there wasn't a lot beyond the big top 4 announcements, but for me, those 4 announcements are so good that it carried the whole thing for me. And there were little things I did like I really like the NSO expansion games. I thought Seeing a Wonderful Life was cool, even though I probably won't play it. I was really nostalgic for that game. And then, yeah, I thought that Dung and Rappa team game looked cool. So, yeah, but really the big 4 in this one was like, that's what I wanted. I feel like we didn't know anything of what Nintendo was doing beyond Pokemon in November. And now we have a really good idea of a lot that they're doing in the first half of next year. So I thought it did what it needed to. And all I really wanted from this one was Zelda. I've been waiting all year to hear about this game. So to finally have a title and a release date, that was going to be enough for this thing to be a success for me.
Were you surprised at all that there was none of the Zelda remasters that people were talking all about within the last couple of weeks?
I don't know, man. I feel like at this point, I haven't believed a lot of these insiders and announcements. And like, I know people generally trust what Jeff Grubb says, and I do believe that he heard from someone within Nintendo that these things were happening. But I also believe that Nintendo lies to people about things to throw people off the scent. Star Fox Grand Prix. They've been doing it for a decade. That game was fake. It was to suss out leakers. Metroid Prime HD seems to be the same thing, where it's not real and they are just like figuring it out to find out where the leaks are within their system. And that's what I think. So
But
I wasn't
sometimes it's
super
true.
surprised.
Like Fire Emblem, people have been talking about that for a while, that something was done
We
and ready
saw
to
that.
go.
We
And
saw screenshots of that. It
there
leaked
it
like 3
was.
months ago.
Well,
It was like a real thing. Yeah.
I guess but yeah, a leak that didn't turn out to be true. But yeah, you never can really believe too much of those. Yeah, I thought it was a good show. It had the big things that it needed to carry the rest of it. And I think that when you have those big announcements, it's able to raise up the rest of the Direct. For me personally, all the farming games, I love it. Rune Factory 3, I'm really
It's a
excited for.
lot of farming
Story of
games.
Seasons, A Wonderful Life is great. And of course, I'm really excited for Harvestell. It's cool that it's getting a demo. But yeah, I think that when you have these bigger announcements, you have Fire Emblem, you have Zelda there, you have a teaser for Pikmin 4, I think that that can lift up the rest of the Direct. People will remember it for the big things, but then they'll remember the Direct just in general, and then maybe they'll remember a couple of the smaller things.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah,
a little
it was a
confused
good
that people
one.
were saying that it was all the memes going around that it was all farming games. Like, I will say that there were a couple of games, but there was a ton of stuff in here that wasn't.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
as a
There
as a
were a
farming
lot
game,
of farming games. There was a
there were.
high proportion of farming games, but it was not all farming games by any
It
means.
was a 40-minute show.
Yeah, it
There
was
was a
like
lot to go
45
through.
minutes. It went a little long,
Yeah.
and I was getting worried because Kirby was right before Zelda, and I'm like, "There's no way in hell that this is the last thing." But they were at the 41-minute mark when Kirby was going, and I'm like, "There's no way that they're ending with this."
Yeah.
But it was after like a third-party reel, and then it was Kirby. I'm like, Zelda had to be there, and glad that it was.
Yep. Going to spend a little bit less time on this. There's less going on in here, but the state of play also happened the same day. This is the first time that
Yep.
we've had same day state of play in Nintendo Direct.
The only one I think there was ones when we got that Horizon gameplay showcase. That was like 2 days after a direct or something like that, and I think those are the closest they've ever been.
Okay.
Yeah, we've
Felt
never
weird
had
on the
same day
same
like
day
this.
within
Yeah,
hours of each other.
yeah. Besides
Let's
like
get in.
E3 when they're all
Oh,
crunched
right.
together, but just
Yeah.
randomly in September felt very weird.
Yeah. So they started with Tekken 8. Zach is not here to let us know what he thinks. Looks really pretty.
Looked cool.
But
Looked very cool.
I have almost no experience with Tekken, so
With the little
can't say too
teaser, there
much
was
about it.
speculation over is this a reboot or a sequel, and it is Tekken 8, so they're
Yeah.
just chugging along. Yeah,
Yep.
people love Tekken 7. That game is very successful, so this game looked cool.
Yeah. So this next one, this morning I only had time to watch one showcase. And I'm like, well, I
Uh-huh.
gotta watch the Nintendo Direct. There's gonna be way more stuff in it. And that was true. The Nintendo Direct as a whole had way more stuff that I was interested in. So I head off to work and I'm like, oh, I'll just hop on Twitter and see what's going on. I know that they're going to show off God of War and probably some other stuff that will be cool to see, but I don't personally care about too much. And then the first thing I
Mhm.
see is this, and I kind of wish that I saw it as it was happening. Like a
Yeah.
Dragon, Ishin is
Well,
finally coming west in February of 2023. It is finally happening after all these years. This thing came out on the PS3 and PS4. Like
that's crazy.
that's how long ago it was. It's going to be an Unreal Engine. It's not going to be in the Dragon Engine, and it looks super pretty. It looks really good. I think the setting is super cool, of kind of that old style Japan, but as it's starting to modernize, like the 1860s, and seeing all these characters come back in these different designs. You're like, oh, I know that character, but completely different design, completely different completely different character,
Yeah.
is super cool for fans like myself. And just, I'm happy that this thing comes over at all. For the longest time you were wondering if it ever was, because it's a notoriously hard game to localize. I mean, it's using old dialect Japanese, and that is a lot of effort. And for the longest time, it didn't make sense because the series just wasn't doing particularly well. So for it to finally be in a place where they've got all the other games out, they've caught back up, and now they're able to release this day and date with its version in Japan, I am super excited for it. I'm glad it's finally here.
It looks really cool, and it seems like a one that like I could play without needing to play all the Yakuza games, like Judgment. Like how
Yeah,
I can play and enjoy Judgment. I was like, this is a game I could pick up and play, and yeah, I won't get all the references of who these people are in the main series, but it looks like a cool game. Like it looks really intriguing to me. And yeah, it's like the exact same situation as Great Ace Attorney, where it's like at the turn of the century, over 100 years ago, they use all this old kanji and old language, and it's like, God, is this ever going to see the light of day? And now they both have, which is just
yeah.
super awesome.
We're running out of Yakuza games that haven't come over yet. At this point, it is the original samurai game, Kenzen. After the announcement of Ishin, I wonder if they're just kind of ignoring that one.
Hmm.
It is set in a different time period. I guess that one's earlier Japan, as this one's a little bit later. And then they have the two PSP games, which I have
You're
no
never going to
faith
see
that those are going to
those.
come out. Kenzen, I could
Uh,
see as that one
yeah.
possibly coming out, but that PSP titles, there's no way. Um, yeah, that was so cool. I am so hyped for that to finally come out.
Yeah.
Couple other stuff. This was kind of the other one that caught my attention. Pacific Drive coming out in 2023. I don't know what it was about it. Kind of the style, the eeriness of the world, just driving around in these locations. It looks like you're doing like scavenging and possibly upgrading your vehicle as you're driving through this post-apocalyptic Pacific Northwest.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what it was specifically about it, but it caught my attention. I think the world and just kind of the mystery surrounding that and the monsters there and what's going on kind of piqued my interest.
Yeah, it looks cool. This was probably the one from the presentation that I didn't really care about this presentation, honestly, but this is the other one that I saw that I was like, that interested me.
Yeah. Yeah, those were my top two: Ishin,
Hmm.
Pacific Drive. Yeah, beyond that, there's really not a whole lot. What Sin Duality is a mech game. Looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like a solid mech game. I am not super big on those, but I think if you're into that style of game, it looks really solid for what that style of game is. You've
Hmm.
got Stellar Blade. Was it just me, or was that logo incredibly hard to read? Uh,
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I
Uh
I
huh.
honestly, so I like write out like a list of what these games were. I couldn't read it. I I didn't know what the first word said. It was like something blade. I had to like look it up afterwards. I
That's
think
funny.
they might have to workshop the logo a little bit so that
Hmm.
people can read it, because the T goes over the L's too. So it looks kind of weird. And then the font choice is, I don't know. But it reminds me of a platinum game in terms of
Hmm.
its combat and
Oh yeah.
like some of the boss fights and stuff like that. Looks
And
Looks
then
like
there's
a
that
platinum game.
other samurai game, that other open world
Yeah.
samurai game.
Yeah. So
That's
from Team
also,
Ninja,
yeah.
Rise of the Ronin. So this one's coming out a lot later. So
Hmm.
Ishin's going to be coming out in February of 2023, and this one is just straight 2024. So
Hmm.
I feel like that's enough time in between. But yeah, another maybe if this one's more open world, I don't know. They didn't show off too much of the world. It was just kind of that one section of him like jumping down into the town. But yeah, Team Ninja always does combat well, and I wonder how the rest of the
Hmm.
world is going to flesh out. But it looks good. It looks quite
Yeah,
pretty.
is this
Yeah.
gonna be like? Is it gonna be like Elden Ring? Like, is this a Souls-like open world game, or is it just like I don't really know what to expect from this thing yet? But yeah, it is. It is. We're in a period for samurai games right now because you had Ghost that kicked it off, then you got this Yakuza localization, then this Neo from the Neo developer, and then the Assassin's Creed showcase also had a.
Oh yeah.
Finally, they're going to Japan. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of that kind of historic Japan games happening right now, which is kind of cool.
It's in right now.
It's in, and
Yeah.
so are farming games, and so are
Yes.
generic space sci-fi horror games.
Well, I
Those are
like
the
two of
three
those three.
games right now.
So,
Yeah.
I'll take two of the three of them.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
PlayStation Stars got shown off a little bit
Hmm.
more. They barely showed off anything. It was all they showed off was the digital collectibles. I was hoping for at least a little bit more details as to kind of like what other rewards there are going to be. So it sounds like there's going to be um like discounts, or you get money back like Nintendo does on like eShop purchases. I mean, it sounds like those are going to be in there, but really all they showed here was the digital collectibles, and they're fine. It looks like the collectibles in oh man, the name's escaping me. Astrobot,
Astro. Yeah.
Astro's
Astro's
Playroom.
Playroom.
Yeah, it looks like those. Which I
Hmm.
mean, sure, cool.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't care about them too much, but they were cool in
Doesn't
that
do much
game.
for me. It's fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, my favorite rewards program is that when I buy a game on the eShop, I get like 60 cents back.
Yeah, that
That's all I
if
need.
if I'm getting discounts and money back or something
Yeah.
like that, that's really all I need. I don't
Yeah.
really care that if you're gonna give me digital collectibles, have it in game, like in a game, like in Astro's Playroom. I think that's
Yes.
more interesting because then they can integrate it better into the actual
Yeah.
game instead of just like a random thing. Yeah, so that was kind of weird. And then God of War gets a special DualSense controller. It's
And a trailer that shows way too much of the game. It's
yeah.
like the trailer I don't want for Zelda. Like, I don't want that, but I know it's going to happen, but I don't want to see that. It's just too much. It's
Looks
weird.
pretty,
It's like,
but
who's that swaying? Who is that swaying? Everyone that's going to buy this is going to buy this regardless of this trailer. No one's going to see, like, oh, look at that cool jellyfish in this trailer. I got to buy that now. It's like, it's just too much. It's just, they're showing too much.
yeah, it looks
It's just
good.
how it works.
Like, yeah, the scale of some of these fights, as always, the first game was like that, and the second game looks like it has a lot of that too. Those were always super cool.
Yeah.
Again, for me, I don't. The first one wasn't enough for me to hop in right at launch. But if this ever gets down to where God of War PS4 is now at like $20, I would definitely hop in and play it through. But
This
it
is
is
what I'm going to
not.
borrow from Zach.
Gotta love
So,
having
yeah.
Zach there for all these titles.
Yep. Yep.
You borrowing this copy of Last of Us Part 1? Or
I am going to. Yep.
okay. Then you don't have to pay for it or go into GameStop and pick up 2 pre-orders.
Nope.
You don't have to do that. And that was the state of play. If Ishin wasn't there, that would have been a basically nothing presentation for me. But it was there, and so that kind of brought it up for me significantly because that's so good. But beyond that, there really wasn't a whole lot for me. What did you think?
Yeah. Not much to say, as always with the state of plays. Like, okay, that happened.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "What a huge day! State of play direct on the same day." I'm like, "Okay, so you mean there's a direct today? Is what you're telling me? I need to focus on."
Then maybe there's
That's
one
how I
thing
felt.
in there in the state of play where I'm like, oh yeah, that looks interesting. Maybe I'll check that out. But they did have Ishin though, so that's really all that matters for me. But you know who else had Ishin was the Ryuga Gotoku Summit that they had. And we got a lot more Yakuza games, or should I say, Like a Dragon games. They have
Yeah,
leaned
whoa.
completely into Like a Dragon beyond just Yakuza Like a Dragon, which was what Yakuza 7, or the seventh game in the series, was named in the West. So, Like a Dragon, Ishin, of course, was shown off at the State of Play, but it got a little bit more shown off here. And kind of the thing that they highlighted was that some of the characters from other games that have released since Ishin first released, those characters are going to be coming back. Obviously, not as the exact same characters, but like the mocap and just like the same actors who played them. So some of the three main bosses from Yakuza 0 are going to be in it, and the voice actors were there in person and kind of talked about it a little bit. And you see a lot, you see characters from Like a Dragon, Yakuza 7 in there as well. So they're kind of pulling a lot more from the series as a whole, because when Ishin came out, it was up to 4, I believe. 5, 6, and 7 weren't out yet.
Okay.
So they have a lot more characters to pull from. I kind of wonder how that's going to play into the story, if they're kind of skinning over certain characters that were in the original with different designs, or if this is like completely different story beats. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's cool.
as a Yakuza fan, it's super cool to see some of these characters coming back. Like a Dragon 8 was also announced. This
Whoa.
one is further off. There was that wrestler that went into the studios for a bit, and we got a couple of little
Hmm.
screenshots. And this one wasn't a whole lot more, but the big thing that we found out is that Kiryu is back.
He's
He is
back.
back. We are going to have co-protagonists with Kiryu and Ichiban. Now, of course, it's Yakuza, so it's no stranger to multiple protagonists. You go back to 4 and 5. There's 4 and 5 playable characters there. 0 has 2 playable characters. So this, in and of itself, isn't nothing crazy groundbreaking, but it is more groundbreaking that Kiryu is back as a playable character,
So how do you feel
because
about this? Because didn't Six, the Song of Life, was his big send off? Didn't that game pretty much exist to wrap up his story? Like that is what that game did. He was the only playable character in that game, and it was his send off. And then they went to Judgment, and they went to Like a Dragon, this RPG, and then the action carried on in Judgment, and it was like that's it. And I know that Kiryu is in Yakuza 7, Like a Dragon, but to me, it's like so. Right, these are the first games since Toshihiro Nagoshi left the studio. Do you think that the new guys are like falling back on Kiryu, because, or do you think this was always the plan? Because I look at Ace Attorney, where the original writer and creator left, and then they just brought Phoenix right back into the main character role right after that happened, after they had already sent him off in a very cool way. And it kind of feels similar to me, but I want to know what you think as someone who knows way more about the story in the series.
if he wasn't in Like a Dragon, I would have more of a problem with it.
Okay.
But the way that he was written to end 6 and how he came back in 7 means that he was already back. Like
Yeah.
he was already back into the fold, and it kind of, in a way, undid a little bit of,
Yeah.
not necessarily undid it, but kind of changed
Hmm.
how 6 ended. So yeah, if 7 didn't exist in that way, where Kiryu came back, and that this was kind of the first game with this new helm of the studio, then it'd feel a little bit weirder. But Nagoshi was there for Kiryu to come back and make an appearance in 7. So I kind of have a feeling that he was at the very least in the plan somewhat, somehow he was there.
Okay.
And with this
Okay.
other announcement, that we get Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name in 2023, which tells the story of where Kiryu was in between 6, 7, and now 8. I think it makes more sense that that there's a lot more planning going into it, where they're making an entire another game to explain things, rather than just to have him show up
Mhm.
in
And this one's going to be
8.
like action adventure, right? This one's going
It
to be not
is.
turn based.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah.
Which will be interesting, because this goes back to the old style, which makes sense because those were all of Kiryu's games. But 8 is going to be turn based. but Kiryu is
Mhm.
also seemingly going to be playable. So
Do we know eight's entirely turn-based, or when you're playing Kiryu, do you fight normal or classic style, and then when you're playing Ichiban, do you fight turn-based?
I'm not sure if they definitively said that the entire game was going to be turn based, but the only thing that they
Mhm.
mentioned was turn based battling.
Okay.
Like turn based is back, and I kind of doubt that they would do two different gameplay styles. I feel like that would be kind of weird,
Yeah.
hopping back and forth between the game and like if you play the RPG style and then you go to Kiryu's story and you have to play with a completely different combat system for like 4 or 5 hours and then have to hop back into RPG. I feel like that'd be really jarring.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't
you're probably
imagine
right.
that they would do that.
Yeah.
Um, so
But
yeah, this
3
is
games!
so 2 games in 2023. You have Ishin in February and then Gaiden in 2023 sometime, and then 8 in 2024. The only surprising thing to me is that 8 is taking so long to come out. These
Yeah.
games get pumped out so quickly. I was honestly expecting 8 next year, but all
Yeah.
these other
I guess
games.
they have these other stories that they wanna tell, and maybe there was a little bit more time to maybe take a step back with the creative changes at the studio.
Right.
That could be a thing too. Um, and the series is no longer Yakuza in
No,
the West.
it's like a dragon.
Yeah. So we have this weird bridge where it was Yakuza 6, Yakuza Like a Dragon 8. And that is just super weird to me.
Have
It's
they
a
have
better
they
name. I like it more. I like it more than Yakuza. I think it's a cool name.
Yeah, and I was thinking at least for Ishin, it it works a lot better because beyond
Yeah.
it being tied to Yakuza as a series, Ishin has absolutely no ties to
Mhm.
Yakuza as they are as like a Japanese crime syndicate.
Mhm.
So when you're talking about going back to those, it makes way more sense. And
But
then
is it called Like a Dragon 8 in the West?
that's what I'm trying to figure out, or if it's
Because I
like a
feel
Dragon
like
2.
if it was me, I would call it Like a Dragon 2. That makes more sense to me.
I don't know if they've officially announced. Okay, called Like a Dragon in English. Um yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's 8 or not. I Everything is saying Like a Dragon 8. So
Yeah.
until Sega comes out and says something different, I'm assuming that they're going with Like a Dragon 8, which would be really interesting if
Yeah.
that
Because
they
I
didn't
feel
make
like the
Like a Dragon
Yakuza
7.
fan base is pretty plugged in and like they know what this series is actually called, like in Japan and stuff. But you do risk losing a casual fan who's like, I played Yakuza Like a Dragon. Oh, now there's Like a Dragon 8. What is that?
It Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of the issue that you run into when you have these different names and then you want to try and bring it all back.
Yeah.
I like the name Like a Dragon. I think it's
The
good.
official US Sega account is calling it Like a Dragon 8.
Okay, then it is
Sega
Like a
US
Dragon
is
8.
calling it Like a Dragon 8. Yeah. Yep.
Which is interesting why they didn't call Yakuza Like a Dragon 7.
Yeah, just Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Like,
It's a weird bridge between the two.
because at the time it made more sense because it was an
Yeah.
entirely new game and an entirely new
Hmm.
style that didn't really match up with the previous games because it was a completely different battle system.
Yeah.
But now if you're just hopping right back, like I wonder if that was the plan, if they were just like, we need to get people all back in with this one and then we'll go back to 8 before, if there were plans that changed, that
Hmm.
they just decided to go with 8. If maybe they came to the conclusion that if we've already changed it to Like a Dragon, why don't we have complete parity and like the exact
Hmm.
same naming between Japan and America, since we're already changing it to Like a Dragon like it is in Japan, to just change the numbering to match it as well.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Like Dragon Warrior to Dragon Quest. They just hopped over after 7 games and we're like, okay, it's Dragon Quest now.
Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
it. It'll be weird.
Also,
I mean,
Judgment on PC. After all that, the both Judgment games are
yeah.
on PC now on Steam.
Yeah, so they're going to be apparently out like later today. So
Hmm.
all of that talk earlier about the talent agency for the main actor, apparently in the end, it didn't end up mattering because it is coming to PC, which also means that maybe the series
Judgment
can
3?
continue.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which would be very cool. I still need to get back to Lost Judgment. I did not get very far.
you got to finish that. It's
Yeah.
solid, not as good as the first one. And
Yeah, I was feeling that. I was already feeling that.
I'm probably going to be playing the Kaito Files soon because it's finally on
Oh
sale,
yeah.
and I've got to buy the
Nice.
Japanese version. So
Oh.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to hop into that. But yeah, bunch of stuff. Do we want to quickly run through your top 3 announcements from all this stuff? Logan, what are your top 3 that you got?
All right, we had to take a quick break there. I'm in a new room. If you're watching the video version, staying with my parents this week, so I had to move downstairs to give you a quiet recording room. But my top 3 announcements from the direct and state of play, no surprises here. They all come from the direct, and it's the 3 biggest games. Those are the ones that got me the most excited. Pikmin 4, just excited that it's real and the series is coming back. You never quite know about the smaller series if they're gonna stick around or not, if they're gonna survive. And to see Pikmin coming back after the success of Pikmin 3 Deluxe, I just thought was very exciting. Number 2, Fire Emblem Engage. Three Houses did disappoint me a little bit. I did not really like that game. I'm very happy that after Fate, which was 3 paths, after Echoes, where you bounce between 2 paths, and after Three Houses, where there were like 5 paths after the DLC, that you didn't get the full story unless you played all of them. I'm very happy. It seems like we're going back to one game, one story, that I don't have to feel bad about not playing it for 130 hours to see the entire thing, like you kind of did if you didn't play every path in Three Houses. So I'm very excited that it kind of going back to basics a little bit. I think the All Star thing is cool, even if we've seen it before. But this is the most excited I've been for a Fire Emblem game in a while. I think it looks awesome. And then Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, obviously
Of
number
course.
one. I cannot wait for that game. God, it's going to be amazing, and I really loved that trailer. And there's just so much to think about in that trailer that I could have done a whole hour-long show just talking about that trailer. But now is not the time or place. But I'm very
There we go.
excited.
All this other stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
My top 3, Tears of the Kingdom will go at number 3. I'm not as big of a Zelda fan, but I enjoyed my time with Breath of the Wild, and I'm just excited that it has a title and it has a release date, and we can start getting excited for it. And some of the traversal that they showed off looked really cool. Number
Mhm.
2, I'm going to go Story of Seasons, A Wonderful Life, just because I have such nostalgic memories of that game. And that's one
Yeah.
of those games from childhood where you didn't see all of it because you really didn't know what you were doing half the time.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that I'll have the time to sit down, play through it, and kind of experience some of the stuff that I didn't get a chance to when I was a kid playing through the original.
Mhm.
And then number 1, I could have gone with any of the Like a Dragon games. I could have had this whole list be Like a Dragon games, but I didn't. That I thought that'd be lame. So I had to go with Ishin at number 1. Like,
Uh-huh.
we knew Like a Dragon 8 was going to be coming out. That was obvious. And the side game with Kiryu is really cool, and I'm looking forward to that. But I think the Ishin news is the biggest one out of all of them. The game that people were wondering if it was ever going to come out. People have been asking for it for years, and it's finally here. It looks beautiful, and we're finally going to get a chance to play it in the West next year. And I am super stoked for it.
Mhm. Nice
So
list.
much news.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So we're going to be skipping what we've been playing. I've been playing a bit of Xenoblade, so me and Logan can
Heyo.
can talk about that a lot more on next week's show. But we're running kind of long, so we'll wrap it up with Splatoon 3. Logan, you've been playing a lot of it. In fact, you have completely abandoned Xenoblade 3 for now.
I know.
For
For
Splatoon
now.
3.
For now.
How is it?
Amazing. It is so great. I think that like Splatoon 2 always felt like Splatoon 1.5 a little bit because it came so shortly after the original, and it was like kind of like they just wanted to get the series out on Switch, and it did have a lot of cool stuff like Salmon Run, but I still think it kind of felt like a half step. This feels like the true sequel to both Splatoon 1 and Splatoon 2. Like it is everything you would want in a sequel. And it pulls it all off extremely well. You've got the multiplayer is what I've spent the most time in by far so far. Turf War, always was a winning formula, right? Like the 3 minute battle to ink the most turf was always an outstanding idea. And now just all of the kind of packaging around it just encourages you to keep playing forever, is what it feels like. Like, I feel like we would play Splatoon 2 and the hour would change and you'd get kicked out of the lobby and then I'd have to jump in and then you'd have to jump in off of me and then you'd be waiting, watching a 3 minute timer. And it's like, it was kind of at the point where like the maps change and you're like, well, should we just stop? Like, is it is it even worth getting back into the
Yeah.
lobby? But now it keeps your lobby together. It's like, oh, it tells you maps and modes updated, and then it does like a quick 2 second loading screen, and then boom, you're back in the lobby and can just hop into matchmaking again. And that's just outstanding. Pairing up with friends is very easy. You can pair up with 3 other friends before you start matchmaking to have a team of 4, and you're guaranteed to be on the same team every time but once. There was one weird time where we weren't on the same team, and my only guess is like maybe it matched us into a lobby with like 2 lobbies of 3 people, and so it split us up or something
Mm.
like that. But I played over 100 turf wars already, and there was one time where I was in a lobby with a friend and we were not on the same team. One match. It's amazing. It is so much fun. But a byproduct of that, wow, these matches are competitive because I think a lot more people are playing with friends on voice chat than they used to be, and they
Ooh,
are
yeah, there's a lot
communicating
more
and coordinating.
strategy.
It is hard to win. In Splatoon 2, I felt like I was good enough to kind of carry a team. I'm like, yeah, if I have a really good match, I think we'll win. That is no longer the case. It is very hard to win matches, which is fun. It is frustrating because you can hit some losing streaks sometimes, but it is fun. These matches are very competitive from the get go. I'm finding it I used to just play Splatoon a lot on my own, but now I'm finding myself calling up people that I know that have it. I'm like, yo, hop in with me and let's win some matches
I
because
need a dub.
yeah, I need help. But then to kind of counteract that, there is the new ranked mode. There's 2 different lobbies. One of them, I think I talked about this from the Splatfest. One of the ranked lobbies you can't play with friends. It is solo players, and so it's a fun way to level out the playing field. Like if I'm playing alone, but I want to play a ranked mode, I can hop into that solo one and then improve my rank knowing I'm not playing against people who are chatting with each other. And that's just super nice. It's like you just have to use the in-game tools to communicate with this team, and that leads to some very tense, very fun matches. So that's very cool. The new maps are great. If you want to play with 8 people, you still can, but that goes back to the old system of you're not guaranteed to be on the same team. If you only have like 5 people, it splits you all up randomly. And you do have to do the old thing of like drop into their lobby when they might be in the middle of a match. But you can still do it. So you can play with 4, matchup guaranteed, hop into matchmaking, or you can still play with 5, 6, 7. If you're going to play with 8, just do a private match. But you can play with 5, 6, or 7, and you just will be on scattered teams. So that's all really nice. The lobby system is fun, practicing with your weapons before you hop into a match instead of just staring at the lobby menu screen is awesome. Um, they let you import your Splatoon 2 data. So I got to start at like B minus in ranked instead of starting in like the D tier, which was super nice. That it's nice for me to play competitive matches, and it's nice for new players that they don't have to face me in their
Right.
D minus ranked matches.
I'm just using you to up my rank again.
Yeah. So it's not like there's that first weird like 2 weeks of the game where everyone's kind of separating into their own tiers. If you played Splatoon 2, they do that for you. You also get 3 golden tickets that you can use to unlock any weapon you want regardless of level. So there's some weapons that naturally you don't unlock until like level 25 or 26, but if you've played Splatoon before, they're like, you know what your favorite weapon is, here's 3 tickets, you can pick your 3 favorites to get a head start. That was super nice because the weapon I wanted to try was like level 21. I've played for like 15 hours, I'm level 12, so it's super nice that I was just able to get the weapon I want and hop into that. So that's online multiplayer, phenomenal, really really great. Like we were texting a little bit about this. I'm losing like 3 hours a night to this thing because I'll hop into a few, I'll look at the clock, and I'll be like, wow, where did the time go? Because the matches are so snappy. You're like, I'll do, yeah, sure, I'll go again, sure, I'll go again,
You're not
and
getting
that just
booted
keeps
out all the
going.
time. You're just in that loop.
Yeah, the game is visually gorgeous. Like you look at like the water effects and just the ink effects, and like man, the lighting, the reflections, just the visual fidelity of this game is a huge step up from Splatoon 2. This thing is one of the most gorgeous games on Switch, and that is awesome in every mode. Salmon Run is back. It's pretty much the same, but it's very fun. So that's in the
Salmon
end.
Run was
Once
already good.
again, yeah, there's a lobby system where you can practice in the lobby, and There's like 4 new bosses that are cool, so that's a nice little shakeup. There's some new maps, so but that's pretty much all the same. But it's a nice shakeup when you're like, okay, I've done Turf War for like an hour. I'll go hop in and do a couple salmon runs.
They got rid of the
And then
timer, right? like
they did
like
salmon
the
runs available whenever. You can do that
which
whenever you want.
how in the world was that not in
Yeah.
Splatoon 2? How was that locked behind specific times?
Yeah, and there was only
Bizarre.
like 6 hours a day it wasn't available, but it was like pretty prime hours. Like, it was very weird. It was
Glad
very
they got rid
weird.
of that.
Yeah. So there's the new like King Salmonid thing where like after the third wave sometimes it's like Godzilla dude will just rise from the ink and you'll have to fight him. And there's like a new currency you unlock just for doing that. And you can use that to buy new outfits for specifically Salmon Run, which did not exist in Splatoon 2. Like you always just wore the orange jumpsuit. Now there's a little bit
Right,
more to
yeah.
kind of work for in there, which is super cool. Oh, something I didn't mention in the normal mode, there's like a battle pass now. It's free. Every 3 months it updates. There's 100 levels to level up separate from your character in this
Ooh.
battle pass, and you unlock cosmetics for doing that. And it's like, cool. Like just more bars filling up, more incentives to do another match. Like, so that's just a nice thing that they've added that doesn't cost any extra money. And then the single player is really cool. It's probably the best one yet. It feels like a sequel to Octo expansion. The hub world is very open. It's like if Splatoon 2's hub world was like the Mario Galaxy 2 spaceship head, where there's nothing really to do there and you kind of are just there to get into the
Yeah.
next level. Splatoon 3's hub world is like Peach's Castle in Mario 64, where there's like it's fun to explore that. You have to do some light puzzles to unlock the next level. There's like multiple choices of where you want to go next for the level. Like it's very, very cool. And yeah, just graphically, it's amazing. And the music is amazing. Just like everything in this game, it's like, oh, I'm tired of multiplayer. I'll play Salmon Run. Oh, I'll just do a few levels of the single player. And it's so seamless and so easy to jump into. It's just the best Splatoon, and it's not even really close. Like already, it is just far and away the best Splatoon has ever been at launch. 15 or 12 maps, I think, more on the way. I think my only criticism is I don't love the maps selection from the old games. There's some maps that didn't make it that I wish had that we'll probably see later down the line. But right now, I'm like, there's 12 maps and I like 7 or 8 of them. So there are a few clunkers in there. I'm like, but that's a very minor complaint. And I guess the only other thing I wish they'd changed was I wish there was 3 maps in the rotation instead of 2. That would have been very nice if they just had
Just have
that
a
third
couple
one
more
to a
options.
little more variety. But they rotate every 2 hours, so it's not too bad. If I still like to time it that I'll play for like the half hour before they change and then a half hour after, and that's very nice. I haven't even tried the card game yet because there's so much else to do.
Well, yeah, the
I
card
haven't
game.
even tried that yet. Yeah. Like I'm unlocking cards for that constantly, but I haven't even done the tutorial for it yet. I want to. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, it's awesome. I'm super happy with it. All my worries melted away. Like I was worried about this game for a while leading up to it, and it has just honestly exceeded my expectations. Like the quality of life improvements. I feel like I played so much Splatoon 1 and 2, I had gotten used to how inconvenient a lot of it was. And now Splatoon 3, I'm like, oh, this is a modern game. And it
They know
feels
what they're
like one.
doing with lobbies.
Yeah, it's really, really outstanding. First Splatfest in a week and a half. Can't wait for that. That'll be super fun. And yeah, excited to dive more into the single player. I have this new special where I ride this inflatable shark across the map and then it explodes. And that's super satisfying. Just all of it. It's probably my favorite game this year. Like it is probably my favorite game this year so far. It's really good. Really
Yeah, it
good.
seems like it's just a bunch of quality of life improvements. And as fun as Splatoon 2 was, it was in dire need of a ton of quality of life improvements.
Yep.
And
Yep.
add in a couple of new bits of content there, and there you go. There it is.
Dude, just skipping. I didn't even mention this because I'm already so used to it. Skipping the intro where the idols tell you the stages. Just you turn on the game, you open it, and you just click the left stick, and boom, you don't have to watch it. Like you can get into a match within like 20 seconds of starting the game. And it's like that was not the case in either other Splatoon game. And it's just huge. It's a huge difference maker.
And just why why it was there in the first couple of games. You're like,
Yeah.
now that it's gone, or now that it's been changed, it's like, man, this is how it should have been
Yep.
for those previous 2 games.
Honestly, it's still a little weird. You have to like it still automatically launches into that, and then you have to click the left stick every time to exit. I wish you could click the left stick to opt into watching it, like
Yeah.
instead. Yeah, that's something I wish came in an update, like a menu option where it's like skip intro, yes or no, and yeah, but like that's my biggest complaint. Really,
Pretty
that's it.
small.
That's all I don't like. Like everything
Pretty
else is
small.
so good. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm glad after the possible delay and the fact that we didn't really see a whole lot of the game for a long time, glad that it came out and it's good
Mhm.
and that it's selling well,
It's good.
breaking records in Japan.
The biggest launch for a video game in Japan ever. Not just a Switch game, ever. That's nuts. That's
It's Splatoon.
absolutely
Splatoon is huge over
insane.
here.
Yeah, do you know
It is
people
massive.
that play it?
I knew people that play it. Yeah. And yeah, you see it around. You see it in convenience stores, and it's got a big presence at the Nintendo store in Tokyo. Like it's big.
How many
It's a
people live
big
in
game
Japan?
here. Uh, I don't know off the top of my head. A fair amount of people. Not as it's in the
Yeah,
100 millions.
125 million.
Okay,
125 million people. 3.5 million of those people bought Splatoon 3 in the first weekend.
that's a pretty
That's
good
a lot
percentage
of
of
people.
people. That is a pretty good percentage of people.
Like everybody knows someone who has Splatoon in Japan, probably. Like if
It's
you live
probably
in
a pretty good
Japan,
bet. Yeah.
yeah, you probably know somebody that has Splatoon. That's crazy. Like that's a lot of
Especially within
people.
like the first on launch day, on launch week. Like that's
Mhm.
wild.
Most games would be happy to sell 1 million worldwide. This game is just freaking enormous. That's crazy. We're gonna see Splatoon games forever, aren't we?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Whew, all right. A long
it's a
show.
long
Any
show.
final thoughts before we wrap up?
I beat Splatoon 2 the day Splatoon 3 came out.
Now you
I
don't
went
have to go
back and
back and
finished it.
sit through any
Yep. Yep.
menus or anything
Uh-huh.
like that. You can just
It was
do
a nice
Splatoon
send
3
off
now.
to that game, which I played for like 100 hours, so it was fun.
Got your money's worth out of it.
Mhm.
I'm just excited for all the Like a Dragon games. It's going to be weird saying that Like a Dragon instead of Yakuza. I'm sure I'll
Yep.
say the Yakuza series and Like a Dragon
Uh-huh.
interchangeably for a while, but it is Like a Dragon now. And I am
Yep.
very excited for the 3 games coming out within the next 2.5 years. It's going to be great.
Mhm.
All right, that's going to do it for us on this week's episode of Ode to Games. We're here on Thursdays or Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, other podcast streaming services that you may use. YouTube at Ode to Games has the video version of the podcast, so you can check that out at about the same time every single week. We're on Twitter at Ode to Games. You can send an email to odegamescast@gmail.com. For Logan, I'm Kevin. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.